Skyward Sword is stuffed to the brim with all kinds of neat details. You can find interesting info about pretty much any character, enemy, or boss in the game, even the weird ones. A little research can go a long way in this game, and after looking into a couple of my favorite sub-bosses in Skyward Sword, I have a little theory I'd like to present. As always with this kind of video, I advise you to turn back if you care about spoilers, though I suspect you've already played the game if you're interested in this at all. No more dilly-dallying, let's get right into it. First things first, let's introduce our special guests. The two primary subjects of this video are LD-002G Scervo and LD-003D Dreadfuse, who, for the purposes of this video and for my sanity, we'll just call Scervo and Dreadfuse. Both Scervo and Dreadfuse are made using a kind of ancient technology found all over the Lanayru area, and likely come from a similar place as the Lanayru mining robots. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly where these robots come from, but we do know a little bit about how they work. For instance, the ancient robots are powered by time-shift stones, as is all the machinery around them. This is one reason why many of them are dedicated to mining and refining these powerful minerals. They also seem to revere the Thunder Dragon Lanayru, possibly even serving him, since they call him Master and tend to him when he falls ill. Besides that, the majority of those robots simply continue to mine the valuable time-shift stones. Not all of these robots are mining drones, though. A subset of these robots is responsible for maintaining the ship that guards Nehru's flame, otherwise known as the Sand Ship. The leader of these robots is known as LD-301 Skipper, or Skipper for short. He is the captain of the Sand Ship and was apparently well beloved by his crew and family. That is, until one of his crew members went rogue. As told by Skipper, a group of pirates seeking Nehru's flame suddenly attacked the ship. They tossed Skipper overboard, imprisoned the crew, and Scervo took over as captain of the ship with the monstrous pirates under his command. We'll talk more about the hijacking later, but for now, let's move on to the other robot, Dreadfuse. Dreadfuse doesn't have quite the same level of backstory as Scervo, at least at face value. He appears on the Sky Keep, a dungeon that was sent up into the sky along with Skyloft to protect the Triforce. According to Phi, he is a guard of Sky Keep, which makes sense given his placement on a narrow bridge, guarding a treasure chest. After you defeat him, you get a key that is required to get the Triforce of Courage, making him effectively that Triforce's guardian. Besides his unique clothing and different purpose, Dreadfuse is mostly a slightly tougher, mirrored version of Scervo. Speaking of toughness, both robots are fairly capable opponents. Each fight requires Link to push his opponent off a ledge, which requires 3 tries to succeed. Both robots fight using a sword, and they can electrically charge these weapons for their defense. If you disarm them once, they pull out a secondary sword, and if you literally disarm them after that, they resort to swinging their hook to attack. The way they charge their swords with electricity is pretty interesting, as there's one other boss in the game who relies on those very things in his battle as well. Can you guess who it is? If not, maybe this will help. Scervo and Dreadfuse are pretty intriguing enemies, especially when it comes to lore implications. No other robots are designed so menacingly, and they possess a willingness to survive unlike any regular ancient robot. Their skeletal design is especially reminiscent of enemies like Stalfos or Stalmasters, prominent enemies in the Demon Horde. But one thing stands out to me more than anything else: their voices. If you listen to them side by side, both of their voices are a slightly altered version of Demise's voice, which can be heard when attacking him. When I found that out, my eyes were opened to just how similar these guys are to Demise. As just mentioned, their voices are the same. They all wield swords, and with those swords they use electricity to block Link's attacks. All 3 battles rely on chipping away at your opponent's defenses, and the way each opponent must be knocked down to defeat them is pretty similar as well. I have to wonder, did whoever made these robots model them after Demise himself? To take things a step further, Perhaps Hylia commissioned the creation of these robots. Although she wanted to use the Triforce to obliterate Demise, Zelda mentions that Link also needed to be able to face Demise himself and give the land hope. If Link were to face opponents on his quest who fought like Demise did, then he would stand a much better chance at a face-to-face confrontation. Since Hylia knew how Demise fought, and it seems that she was allied with the ancient robots during the surface conflict, I could envision her having some robots built to test Link in the far future. While she would have already sent the Skykeep up by the time the conflict was over, it probably wouldn't be too hard to stick one extra robot in there, especially if she wrangled several bokoblins, moblins, and other monsters and managed to fit them. To wrap things up, I'll share an idea I had about Scervo's mutiny that I'm not extremely sure about, but I wanted to bring up just to be thorough. Given what we know of technology in the series, especially with how robots and machines have worked in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, many devices are susceptible to corruption by Malice. Malice, when controlled by a demon like Ganon or Girahim, can be used sort of like a virus to corrupt machines, such as the Sheikah Guardians or the Ancient Cistern's protector Koloktos. When Fi analyzes the robot Scervo, she tells us that he was a mutineer, so he was definitely involved in the pirate effort to commandeer the sand ship. Skipper also tells us that Scervo has scary minions under his control, who are almost certainly the monstrous technoblins who we see on the ship. Robots don't typically do a complete 180 on their intended programming, unless you forget a semicolon. While Scervo doesn't show any outward signs of Malice corruption, it seems like he switched sides pretty quickly to lead the Bokoblin pirates. Because of this, I wonder if Scervo was corrupted by Malice, perhaps even by Girahim himself. After all, the sand ship is the only surface dungeon that Girahim neglects to show up at in person, and while his absence doesn't confirm his involvement, he shows up everywhere else besides the Skykeep, which is a secret to everybody anyways. It's almost guaranteed that what he used on Koloktos was Malice, and it's likely that he was around back when Demise first went to war with the surface, so it doesn't seem entirely impossible that he corrupted Scervo in order to secure Nehru's flame. The theory would hold more water if Scervo showed outward signs of Malice corruption, but alas, we only have his behavior to scrutinize. It could also have something to do with his Demise-like construction, since, well, Demise is the boss of all things evil. I could see where a robot based on him would be inclined to turn evil as well, especially one that might be experimental. That said, this is just an idea I had, and it's actually what inspired this video in the first place. It would have felt a little wrong to leave it out altogether. So, there you have it. I think Scervo and Dreadfuse may have been made as Demise copies to test Link, and that one of them may have been turned by Malice, or a semicolon, against his crew. It's not the biggest or deepest theory, but the design connections felt very intentional to me. What do you think? Did I overlook something obvious about these robots, or do you think I might be onto something here? Let me know in the comments if you feel like it. Another thank you to Saber on Discord, who I relentlessly barraged with these ideas before writing this up. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time you're in the Legend Zone.